Welcome to the studio at the African Utility Week in Power in Africa. Today I'm speaking with Rahner on the penetration of distributed energy systems and microgrids in Africa. Welcome, Rahner.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go straight into the discussion. What role can distributed energy systems and microgrids play in the modernization of grid networks in Africa?
Yeah, we see at the moment in Africa the microgrids and the distributed energy systems play, or the role of them becomes much more important.
Okay.
As we all know, the electrification of the African continent, we are still around 40%, 42%. Okay. So there are a lot of places, especially remote places, which lacking energy. And the decentralized energy system or microgrid can sort much easier the issues of electrifying remote areas.
Okay.
Instead of building overhead lines or cables, which is quite expensive, you have to acquire land and so on from the utilities. The possibilities to bring decentralized energy directly to the place where they need the energy, and you generate it there, you run the whole grid, a small little grid on your own, makes it much easier to bring energy into the remote areas nowadays.
Okay. So they also help improve in energy access.
Yes, the energy access for these remote areas, development of the remote areas. So we are looking around in whole Eastern Africa, Southern Africa, the islands. So
Africa has been for long struggling with load shedding, power outages, especially during times when energy demand is high. How can distributed energy resources and microgrids play to ensure that there is enough energy to overcome our outages?
As I said before, so decentralized energy systems, or so-called microgrids, they are dedicated to a certain area. Mm-hmm. And we see now more and more the industries are struggling. So you have impact in the industries with the load shedding. So they are looking more and more onto getting onto self-sustainable supply and their own grid. Important is that you deliver the whole value chain. So what you start with the consulting with the industries to have the right size. And it's not only industries as well, let's say remote areas or other microgrids. Okay. So you start with the consulting, the right sizing of the different generations for them and the different need, and to give them the idea of the different energy mix so that they can have a really sustainable power supply.
Okay, you spoke about being concentrated mainly in Eastern Africa. How about in other regions? Can we say the market is reached a point whereby we can say it's matured in Africa?
I would say what we see at the moment, the market is over the whole continent of Africa.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if you have, the emerging countries. You have emerging countries like Rwanda, Ghana, Nigeria. Even there, the market is very high, but that's due to, let's say, the money and the investment they need to improve not only the generation, but as well the distribution and transmission. It's even faster for them to implement a microgrid outside of that and to run on their own. So this is how the whole market is supported to grow even a bit fast in the emerging countries. And we have a lot of countries where you have the remote areas. You have electrification of 20%. Rwanda, 1 out of 3 people. Madagascar, you have 25% electrification. Especially there, it is important to support the people and the industry to grow.
Okay. Who is adopting microgrids? Is it utilities, municipalities?
Look, at the moment, most of them are privately. So it's industries a lot, as we said before, for the sustainability of the energy supply. We have a lot of funding for social projects, to support remote areas, villages, but as well for the utilities. It becomes in Munich, it becomes interesting, because for utility, just take an example, take Eskom, or South Africa Utility. So instead of building a 300-kilometer overhead line to a remote place, the time it takes to get all the permissions to build it and the amount of money to build such an overhead line, it's now price competitive to build a microgrid there, because the monitoring systems nowadays are so, so remote that even Eskom in Johannesburg, can monitor this microgrid on their own and implement it in their systems.
Okay. when the business models of distributed energy resources first came, there's been a lot of issues being raised about utilities revenue. Is it on the negative or on the positive? How do they impact on utilities revenue?
Look, I never would say that it will impact on the business, on the revenue of the utility. So at the moment, they lose revenue as well when they have load shedding.
Okay.
At that time, even if they have load shedding from the generation side, municipalities can earn money, or even the utility can earn money.
Okay.
It's much easier or much more sustainable to have a distributed energy generation than having the one big centralized energy generation. So they have many different sources, and with the right control and the right monitoring, it's possible to mix the energy in the right way.
Okay.
On the other hand, you will have a lot of IPPs, so there will be new business models for the utilities. They can do like renting out the infrastructure which is existing, the overhead lines they have, the substations they have. So they will earn money not with selling the energy, but with the transport, for example.
Okay.
So they lose not lose one side, but reduce one side, but they will have new business models as well, which come. So that should be all fine.
Okay. But are they showing interest?
Yes, it's slowly, but they are showing interest. I think one of the main big topics as well, what will be an interconnection of the African energy market, and from the authorities that they open the energy market.
Okay.
So I'm here since 3.5 years, and I know the European market as well. There, the energy trading is a big topic, and it gives the utilities new opportunities of earning money as well. So the interconnection and the opening of the African energy market will be quite important. And if that happens, the topic will become even bigger for distributed energy.
Do you think there's enough funding to ensure interconnection of energy systems?
There's a lot of funding coming in, but there's as well a lot of work to do. So from the funding, from the installation, they are existing at the moment, the fundings. It could be, let's say, the speed should be a bit higher to implement at the moment. But yes, it's existing, and we are going a step further to get more and more funding. Okay.
What funding more do you think best fits the market here in Africa?
I think the market here needs even more of a private funding as well, private investors. We have a lot of banks, Africa Development Bank, German banks. Most of the governments are funding projects in Africa. The private investors are still a little bit afraid, and for that we need bankable business cases in the background to show them why it's suitable to fund such projects and how to help and what will be the impact on the society here.
Okay. What other factors do you think are hindering the market growth, and how can they be addressed?
As I said, the factors at the moment, I don't want to, a little bit it's the regulating authorities. They have to get, let's say, we need the grid codes, but we need to be as well open about the infeed, the regulators. Open the market, get the energy market open and energy trading going, which is very important, but as well support the funding. At the moment, it's still sometimes blocked that you can feed back into the network, or you can reuse existing infrastructure from the utilities because it's theirs, and they don't have the business model like renting out infrastructure. It's not fully implemented. So they're afraid of doing that, and this is, I think, at the moment the most showstopper for implementing it. Okay,
between solar and wind, which resource is mainly being adopted in microgrids?
So the main resources at the moment are PV, so solar, mini hydros a lot in Africa, and very, very wind at the moment. It's on the lower level, which we implement. So wind, it's more the big IPPs, big wind farms. Small wind turbines, not that much there. If you go small microgrid, you go mainly into PV, micro hydro, as well as gas generation with biogas or biomass. And sometimes battery storages.
Whilst the industry claims that technologies such as energy storage and solar PV keeps on declining the cost, how come there are issues being raised about lack of funding, about the high uptake cost required for microgrids and other distributed resources?
The main thing, as I said, is the consulting, the right sizing of the grids, of the microgrids, so that you don't have overcapacities and you spend too much money, and the right consulting and business cases in the background to show the banks how it works. And you have to show that you have the right monitoring functions in place so that the revenue comes back. Funding is always there, but at the end there must be somewhere a return on invest. So you have to show with the consulting and with certain softwares and calculations the return on invest times, and to secure the return on invest with the right agreements, service level agreements, and the monitoring and billing in these microgrids, so that you really have a steady flow of money after you implemented it.
Yeah. Any case study you want to share?
Look, the main case study I'm sharing is our own microgrid in Siemens Park in Midrand. We are producing around about 1 megawatt. We are just a little bit below 1 megawatt. We are running like 30% of the day we are running on PV, on our own, self-sustainable, without getting energy from the grid. We even during lunch times we are backfeeding into the grid at the moment. And the solution which is available on the market is completely implemented. So we trained our engineers here in Africa on microgrids, so we can, let's say, deliver the whole value chain out into the countries, because we built up the knowledge in our own place, and we have a showcase which is 100% bankable with a return on invest time of 7 years, which we built on our own premises.
Thank you for coming in, Marco.
Thank you for the invitation and the talk.
Sure, thank you. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more energy and water related content. Bye for now.